What is up, people? Today I am reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp for you guys, and I got that coming up for you next. So I just got back from Ant-Man and the Wasp, and this is the sequel to the Ant-Man film that just came out, I believe, either 2 or 3 years ago. I believe it was 3 years ago. And this was, again, directed by Peyton Reed, and it stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, and Michael Pena, along with Michelle Pfeiffer and a whole slew of other actors that we will definitely get into. Now, I haven't done a review for the first Ant-Man movie, but I feel like I am in the minority of people that really... I wasn't that big of a fan of the first Ant-Man film. I felt like it was very cookie cutter and very safe. Felt like it was the most Disney movie out of all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I just did not like the origin story that was told in that film. So I knew going into this one that I was probably going to like it a little better just because the origin story was out of the way and I could just have a little more fun with this one. And we'll talk about it, but I think I actually did. So the plot here, it does get convoluted as the movie goes on, but the core of it is that Scott now is under house arrest because of what he did in Civil War, and that is a problem for him just because now he can't associate himself with Hope and Hank Pym. They are outlaws of the law as well, only they are a lot better at hiding themselves than Scott is. And Hope and Hank are definitely busy building a device that will transport them into the quantum realm that will bring back Janet, who is Hope's mother and Hank's wife. Now, of course, you know that Scott is going to get involved with their plans, and it is very much a cat and mouse game for who controls this device, and really Scott running from the government because they are on his tail, and if they find out that he's left his house, then he can never see his daughter again because he will go back to jail. And if you haven't seen the first film, yeah, Scott really doesn't want to do that. So to start off with what works here, this is a more confident film. The jokes hit harder and they land more often than the first film, and they don't seem very kidified, along with the action here, because the action in this movie is something really special, and it is something that I expected from the first film that I really didn't feel like I got. You definitely see the advantages of shrinking small and then getting big, and really just the creativity of all that they can do with the suits in this movie is unbelievable. Evangeline Lilly is definitely a standout here, as I thought she would be. She is the more compelling character. She's a lot more fun to follow, and she is definitely a badass chick that can hold her own, and it definitely stays one notch above people at every point in time. I feel like she's just a very competent and just badass chick. Michael Douglas is still great, and he is great in this role. Hank Pym is just he's a curmudgeon, you know, and hey, Michael Douglas can do that really great. And I feel like the relationship between him and Scott in this movie is just a lot more fun and a lot more funny than the first film, and I feel like there's just a lot more breathing room between those two characters. Like how Hank knows that Hope and Scott like each other, and the way that he deals with that and the way that he kind of messes around with them in this movie is always great, and I love it when he does it. Michelle Pfeiffer is also great as Janet Van Dyke. When she comes into this movie, she really commands the screen, and even though she only has a small amount of time in front of the camera, this whole movie does center around her, and when you see her, you know why, because she is definitely just a very likable character and very confident one. Another very confident woman in the Marvel Universe. One thing that a lot of people are having a problem with this movie, and I particularly don't, is the back seat that Paul Rudd is taking with his character of Scott Lang. Ant-Man does take a backseat to Wasp in this movie. Evangeline Lilly just has the more fun role, and she has a lot more fun in her role, and I feel like a lot of people are going to want to see her more than Ant-Man. And hey, you know what? He had a very boring backstory and a boring character in that first movie, so I don't mind if Evangeline Lilly's character, Hope, comes in here and steals the show, and she does. Getting into the things that did bother me, the plotting is very overstuffed here with characters. You not only have one villain, but you have two villains in this movie. The first, and the more stereotypical, is Walton Goggins' character of Sonny Birch. Now, Sonny is the person that has been giving them all of the parts to make this machine, and now he wants his piece of the pie, and he turns out to be this kind of gangster thug that owns the whole entire city. He knows people everywhere, and he has a colorful cadre of villains that go after Scott and Hope at any given point in time. You know, this guy, he didn't do it for me, and he's not that well developed. But what I will say is that Walton Goggins does his best to bring a lot of life to this character and a lot of personality. I just wanted him to mean more than he does in this movie. Whenever he is in here, he just gets punked out so easily. He just doesn't even feel like a threat, you know? The bigger threat is Hannah John Kamen's character of Ghost. Now, she is a very mysterious person that is after the machine for reasons that I won't spoil for you guys. But what I will say is she has the more compelling part that does kind of get deflated towards the end of this movie. But what I will say is I was at least interested in where her character was going to go in this movie. But the biggest problem with this movie is there are way too many coincidences. Everything is an easy fix. There is always some gadget that just fixes things so damn easily, and it doesn't really have a lot of consequence in this movie. There isn't a whole lot of consequence here. Whatever happens can just be fixed with a simple flip of a switch, or using this device, that device, yada yada yada, and it's just all comes across as a lot of happenstance. Overall, I did like this movie more than the first. It was funnier. Michael Pena is still hilarious, and I forgot to mention there are a whole new slew of gadgets in this movie that is so great. But unfortunately, there are a whole lot of coincidences and a whole lot of characters that really, when you get down to it, don't really matter in this story. That I feel like there are still problems with the Ant-Man series, but at least I had a lot of fun with this movie. I will give it a 6 out of 10. So I have a whole lot of videos to shoot this weekend, and I am going to be catching up with myself in rapid succession. But I just wanted to show you guys 2 videos that I will have coming up in the near future, and that is Pacific Rim Uprising. I have a special treat coming up for you guys with that video. And then I have all the Mission Impossible films that just came out in 4K leading up to the release of Mission Impossible Fallout that I will be reviewing for you guys. If you guys have suggestions of things that I can do after the Mission Impossible series, just let me know. And as always, thank you for watching my videos. You guys are awesome, and I will see all of you next time.